Hi there, beautiful souls. I'm Michèle Duquet. Welcome to my channel, Soulful and Unplugged. And today I have the distinct pleasure and honor of introducing to you Australian initiated shaman Shane McLeay. What I loved about our conversation is how easy he makes it for us to understand shamanism and the sacred practices involved in shamanism, and how this modern shaman, my words, not his, is really pioneering this new way of practicing shamanism to help others in this rapidly changing world. Hello, Shane.
Hello, Michelle.
Shane McLeay is in Australia. He is a shaman, and actually, I was looking on your website, and I'm very intrigued by what it says in the first paragraph of your bio. It says, Shane McLeay is a highly sought after mentor who bases his work in the esoteric, energetic principles of shamanism. As an initiated shaman, Shane comes from this place and looks at the world through this energetic lens. Okay, I love that.
Works for me, Michelle.
Okay, so what intrigues me about that is just the words initiated shaman. And the reason I wanted to interview you is because I've always wondered about shamanism. There's something so, I don't know, it just sounds very, very sacred. And the energy of it, I always felt I had this vision of a shaman having a visual or a spiritual journey with who they are helping, like together. And I was hoping you could explain to me, in your words, what is a shaman, but also what is an initiated shaman?
Okay, so wow. What is a shaman? A shaman, in the most simplistic terms, a shaman is so in shamanism, there's two worlds, really. Fundamentally, there's two worlds. Some people say there's three, some people say there's four. But it's kind of like any pathway, any religion, any opinion. Like you can ask 10 people and get 12 answers, you know what I mean? So I can only come from the perspective that I am grounded in and through my experience. So shamanism is the acknowledgement of the two worlds. So there's the inner world and there's the outer world. And so the inner world is the energetic, everything's energy, but when we go within, we can actually weave our own reality in the dream state. So dream world is very much a part of the shamanic pathway. So if I were wanting to help heal somebody, there's many, and this is very, very dependent on your culture, but from a fundamental, absolute grassroots perspective in shamanism, and this is where distance healing comes in and all these types of things where you don't need to be there. Mm-hmm. You hold the person or the animal or the situation that you want to see where healing takes place, and you then go in and you dream a new reality. You see them well, you see them healing, and then what you do, because in shamanism we call it dream weaving. So we take the inner dream and we weave it into the fabric of the reality of the outer world, and we create, we weave a new reality through our dreams, our thoughts, our intentions. So very much manifesting based, to really drill down into it. So that's kind of what shamanism is. It's about going within and acknowledging the two worlds and being the bridge between those two worlds, being the conduit. So when I work with people one-on-one, which I do every day, I will, even like the people I mentor long-term, and there's like, I think 7-8 years is the longest person I've been constantly working with. I'll go and actually journey within and find the answers and the things they need and bring it up in the session. And it's very real and very in the moment from the energetic realm. And, the seventh principle of shamanism tells us that effectiveness is the measure of truth. So I judge my integrity and my work on the results I provide for the people. And it's always very accurate, and that keeps me grounded in flow. So that's kind of what a shaman is. And the second part of your question, Michèle, was?
What is an initiated shaman?
So again, that depends on where you come from around the world and who your teacher is, who your master shaman is. So for me, it was a process of my background in spirituality started in I was mentored by clairvoyance when I was like 12 years old. So that was my grounding. I always had this awareness, like a lot of people. I'm like my story is not that special.
Yeah, I was
It's
going to ask
everybody.
you. I was curious about childhood and like a sense that you had this from early age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of us do, and then the programming kicks in and tries to beat that out of us.
Yeah.
So that was my normal. Like I remember my first true image was sitting in my grandmother's garden and seeing this beautiful blue butterfly, and it was so vibrant and alive, and that connected me. And I've gone, I think I was 4. That was my memory, and I just knew that everything was energy and everything was alive. But the initiation process, it's I studied for 5 years under a master shaman, and so I didn't do a weekend course and become a shaman.
No.
I and prior to that, I spent 10 years with an Australian Aboriginal elder, and he taught me so many things, because our tradition, our native people here are very, very grounded in the dream time, and very, very grounded in nature, and connect with nature. I remember him teaching me, if you want to listen to a rock, you have to listen very carefully, because rocks speak very slowly, you know, because they're very old and they've been there a long time, and they absorb so much
Yeah.
wisdom. If you want to talk to a tree, then you have to know how to talk to the tree, and extract the wisdom out of the tree. And so initiation, I was initiated by my master shaman, who was actually a Cherokee, and he lived here in Australia, and he was trained by Hawaiian kahuna. So
Wow.
I've had this beautiful blend of Australian Aboriginal. We don't, in our culture here, we don't call people shaman. They're Kadachi men or medicine men or
Okay.
elders. So I had that beautiful experience for 10 years. And then I had, on top of that, the 5 years. And then in the middle of all, or actually prior to all that, I did theological studies at university level, because I got caught into that Christian world and that whole thing. And thankfully found my way out of that. So the initiation process I find it valuable because it's about integrity, and it's about the people I work with. The pathway is to initiation, so that what we do is we uphold them, and we support them, and we give them that status of initiation. It doesn't mean you're better than anyone. It means that you've proved yourself, you've studied, and you have committed.
Well, then what gave you that calling? Like, when was it that you started that journey? I have this probably, wrong concept of it, is that a person does not decide that I am going to become a shaman. There's something ancestral or something someone recognizes and states to someone else. It's like someone who understands the journey recognizes in someone else, saying, I believe that you're meant to be doing this. Is this the wrong concept? Or
No, that's very much the traditional concept, and that's my experience. That was my experience. I was those people came to me and said, hey, this is in you.
wow.
And so, but this is controversial. Now, man, I am controversial because I'm open to all possibility. So I'm controversial when you talk to a lot of traditional shamanic people who've been in the shamanic world, and so I'm I'm excited about where shamanism is going because I'm seeing shamanism becoming mainstream. And what we have to understand is that if you really want to use the term shaman, that term only applies to a group of people in like Siberia. That was the word that was used to describe them. They were originally called the Shama or the Shame, but the English they Englishized the word and called it shaman. And so in the Native American tradition and the Native Australian tradition and throughout the Polynesian islands near where I am, it's like, well, there were no shaman. There were just chiefs, elders, medicine men, medicine women. Like, so shaman's become this word that's been applied it's a blanket word that covers traditional connection to the earth and to the elements and all of those things. So the controversy with me is that what people mistake for shamanism is often just um, cultural practices. So
Oh,
if
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
so if I go to
Yeah.
Fiji and the Fijians have their cultural way and they're using
Mm.
fire and they're doing, the modern world would call that, oh, they're shaman. And you come to Australia and there's a smoking ceremony and all those types of things take place and they go, oh, well, they're shaman. And you go to North America and they go, well, they're the Indians, they're shaman. Well, they're actually not. And this is the thing that people go, how can you say that? How dare you? Well, these are cultural traditions that people have. And so I have Navajo blood in me because 6 generations ago, a guy got on a ship because he was taken from America to England as a slave, and he escaped, got on a ship, and arrived here in Australia. And I also have, you know, other indigenous blood in me, but I am not that. I'm
Mm.
me. I honor the ancestors. And my culture, if I dressed up in feathers and animal skins and walked into my town, the nearest town to me, and started
Yeah.
being a shaman, I'm like completely irrelevant.
Mm.
I'm actually being disrespectful to the cultures that I'm mimicking.
Yeah.
This is where the resistance comes with me. I also acknowledge that we've moved out of the Pisces age of
Hmm.
structure and rigid belief and rigid control. And we're moving into this beautiful thing called the Aquarian age. And that's all about transparency. It's all about community. It's all about oneness. And I truly acknowledge that shamanism is becoming more inclusive and more open. And the people I work with, I acknowledge the use of smoke because I've been trained in why and how. I've
Hmm.
spent time with Hindu masters in temples in Indonesia, and I've learned why they use rattles and bells, and I know why the people use clapping sticks and drums. They're interacting with the energetic realm and they're disrupting
Yeah.
energies. So they all look
Hmm.
cultural and they all look very theatrical,
Hmm.
but fundamentally, they all those things have a purpose, and you don't need to dress up to do that. And here's the other thing, Michelle. Back in the day, every village, every community had one shaman.
Right.
And, he decided who was going to be the next shaman. And
Right.
he didn't want a rival that was going to upstage him. And he didn't want to give away his secrets. So theatrics became a very big part of the traditional shaman's world. And he wanted to protect his medicine, he wanted to protect his knowledge. So he would protect that by projecting these theatrics and, lots of smoke and mirrors. Because if somebody else challenged his role as the shaman in the village or the medicine man or the medicine woman, he was out of a job.
So it
um,
wasn't an elder passing it on to
yeah, that's
you?
how it happened in a lot of
Yeah.
traditions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he would find the apprentice and he
Right.
would bring him into the inner
Yeah.
sanctum and teach him the
Yeah.
secrets. And you don't give away your secrets because then you
Yeah.
lose your power. And
Right.
so
Right. Right. Right.
that's kind of how it happened. And so it is controversial, but we need to all spiritually mature and grow up and
Yeah.
understand that we're not in that old energy anymore. We're in a new energy, and we need to be respectful to these traditions and not, not treat the traditions as though they're tacky gimmicks, because they're sacred things that need to be respected.
And you feel it when you do watch a ceremony. I yeah, I definitely absolutely feel the vibration of it, and it's very powerful. So I see where it has its place, but I also, I guess maybe it's kind of like the, spiritual world that, like, I don't need to talk a certain way and be a certain personality. I can just be me and still use energy to heal and work on intentions and do pendulum energy healing and like I can do all of that and still have a career as an actress in film and TV. Like the two aren't exclusive. I don't have to put on a different hat, so I guess in a way we've come a long way that way. The new age things, people at a certain way were talking a certain way and dressing a certain way and doing, and that's no longer really what's happening. People are just living their lives and they just happen to have these gifts, and it's just something they do. It's not, but it's also a dedication to spirituality and meditation and connecting to the energetic world and the energy and the light within. So I guess it's kind of like what you're saying. There's a new journey or new path happening in shamanism that you seem to be at the head of it, kind of the modern
Yeah,
modern maybe shaman.
that's exactly right, Michelle. And it's kind of like, you look at any, like, shamanism is not a religion, so there's no set of
Yeah.
beliefs, and it's like there's nine principles, and
Yeah.
they just guide us.
Mm.
Um, uh, it is this pioneering kind of thing, which you're doing as well. And people have become so obsessed with becoming spiritual that they've lost their spirituality,
Yeah.
because spirituality is about being your authentic self.
Right.
Spirituality is acknowledging that there's this world within you, that you're connected to the divine, that the very
Mm.
spark of the divine rests within you, and that you are all that ever was, is, or will be. That's one to that'll mess with people's heads, but it's about being your authentic self. It's
Mhm.
about grounding yourself in your truth, not somebody else's. We
Yeah.
we want to look outside of ourselves for answers and for solutions and for direction and for guidance. Yes, I have three mentors in my life because I know the value of that.
Mm.
But everything, their guidance guides me. It doesn't dictate to me. And I go within. I do my own journey. I'm authentically me, and that's
Mhm.
all I can be. So, if somebody wants to run around in animal skins and feathers and do stuff, well, I don't judge them. I ask, how much more powerful would they be if they
Mhm.
engage with their authentic self, the true
Mhm.
them?
So then, you calling yourself a shaman, then does that also invite misunderstanding?
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, look, I actually said to one of my mentors only a year ago, you know what? I almost don't want to call myself a shaman anymore. And he said, well, how will people understand what it is you actually do and where
Mm.
your values are? And I went, well, and he said, be who you are, be what you are. And I said, yeah, yeah. And so that's what I do. The shamanic path is important to me because it works for me. It may not work for other people, but it's
Mm.
it's not that complicated.
Right.
Uh, nine
Yeah.
principles.
Well, from the very first time, I don't know when I first saw one of your videos on YouTube, and long time, years ago,
Yeah.
I saw, and And I immediately felt the vibration. I immediately felt the integrity, the honesty, um that I also I saw the knowledge. Like I was like, okay, it's very, I find it rare. It's not that common to meet someone who really has the eyesight, the vision, the awareness, the consciousness. And you clearly do. And it's no wonder if you've spent years with teachers and mentors. In fact, that's what, how does it say? Trained by holy men and women from around the world over many years. I mean,
Mm.
that in itself is a commitment, and uh you had direction. You really knew that this was your path. Or maybe you questioned it on and off.
Well, firstly, thank you, Michelle, for those words, because integrity is important to me. And I'm only human, and I'm here to have a
Yeah.
human experience. So I am going to make mistakes just like everybody else. I am going to get it wrong. I am going to go down pathways that don't serve me when I lose my focus. So acknowledging the human experience is very, like, we are here to be human. We're not here to be anything but that, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's part of getting it. Oh, I want to go and astral travel and never come back, kind of thing. Well, that's great, but you're actually missing the whole point of being here. Astral travel is a wonderful thing. I don't have a problem with it, but we are human, and humanity is under great attack at the moment. And we need to actually protect the divinity and the sovereignty of what humanity is. And in relation to your comment about the amount of times I felt lost, Michelle, the amount of times I absolutely had no idea where I was or what I was doing, but I just knew that if I had to do what I was doing. I didn't actually know the big picture. Like, and I used to really give myself a hard time over the years I spent in the church. And, I was just pleasing a whole bunch of people who'd put a whole bunch of pressure on me. And I let them. So it all come my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to give myself a really hard time over that. But, I learned so much.
Yeah.
And so much depth in people and spirituality and that perspective. And I bring all that with me now. And I'm healed from my trauma through those years. But you have to value every aspect of the journey, and you have to I guess you have to just decide, you know, you have to come to that point where you think, well, whatever you're rejecting, you're accepting, kind of thing. Like, until you take action and until you decide on a pathway forward and decide to surrender to that and to let go of the external and go within and be grounded in who you are and seek from that place. That's where the power is, because the sixth principle of shamanism reminds us that all power comes from within. And all power comes from within. That's very dependent on what we're grounded in. So,
Well, I can't imagine a teacher being a good teacher or a mentor being a good mentor without understanding the dark side and without having gone through the dark night of the soul and the feeling lost and all that. What good would I be to anybody else if I'm trying to help them if I really don't understand the journey? And you, to me, that just talks about the honesty of the journey, is that it's if you really can help others, you have to have touch the dark side too, because it exists. It the light and the dark, it's always there, and we can't help someone towards the light if we don't know where they're at in the darkness.
It's the perspective as well, Michelle, and it's the contrast, it's the perspective. So, you look at a raging river that's gouging out the earth, and you see the earth, the banks of a river falling in, or the ocean taking, you know, you look at it and you go, oh my God, that is so aggressive. These things are in such opposition to one another. And then you go 100,000 kilometers out and you look at the earth as this beautiful blue and
Mm.
green ball that sits in the darkness of space. And you go, oh my God, what a beautiful planet. Oh, it looks so peaceful and harmonious. But it's the perspective, when you're at the cold
Yeah.
face and your face is there, and you go, oh my, this is doing
Mhm.
my head in. When
Yeah.
you go back and look from another perspective, it's like, well, there's a
Well,
purpose in everything.
yes. And I can imagine the journey must have been really difficult for you. I can imagine because I also know that you were a successful businessman or person in the film and TV. From what you from the little bit that we talked about, like you had a career that I'm curious about because at some point did you I mean you must have had to make that decision going, okay, I'm now
Um,
the do this.
yeah, it's like we're all in this flow called life, and we all have to make decisions, and we all have to decide, do we want to settle, or do we want to actually be in a place of flow and experience what that is? And when you get to that point, as you know, Michelle, there is a cost,
Yes.
there is a price to pay. And, at the time, it's like that perspective of, oh my God, look at the ocean ripping away at the earth. That's one perspective of the cost. And then you look back from 100,000 kilometers out from the earth. I don't know, it might not be that far. And you see this beautiful blue and green thing. You go, oh, that is so beautiful and precious. Oh my God. Oh, wow. It's beautiful. So I left the church. I had this yearning within me to help people. And, and I kind of knew about business because obviously I'd worked, and I had this, I just knew I needed to do something that was to make a difference. So I started a business, and it was very successful. And then I bought another existing business, and it went really well. And because I owned an electrical store, and it was one of the businesses. And I remember one day I'd sold this massive TV when plasma TVs were a thing, and they
Yeah.
just like $5,000 or $6,000. This family came in with they didn't they didn't even have a car. They arrived in a taxi. They signed up to this thing. They wanted this TV, and I could see they were poor people.
Oh.
They signed up. They bought this TV, and the taxi driver's helping them trying to fit it in the car in this huge box. It wouldn't fit, so we delivered it for free for them because I felt sorry for them. And when we did that, I thought, you know what? This is all great and wonderful, and I've built a great team of people, and they're good people, and doing all these things and involved in the community. And I was the president of the business chamber. Oh, that happened later, but it was very involved in everything. And I had this epiphany: all I'm doing is selling landfill and putting people into debt for things that they don't need and can't afford, and it really messed with me. And so that led me to creating the manifestation around selling all my businesses in a time where it was just past the GFC, or it was around the GFC. And it was an impossible task to sell a business in the industries that I was in. And, within weeks, these people showed up and said, want to buy your business? And I'm like, yeah, okay, thanks. No worries. There's no negotiation around the pricing. It is what it is. I'm going to be fair and reasonable. And so that all happened. And then I was kind of lost. And because I built my businesses through marketing, because I've always loved the idea of marketing, which is storytelling, right? I got a role with the biggest electronic digital media company here in Australia, and Southern Cross Austereo, and I worked in their television marketing area and did very, very well. And I left there 3.5 years into it to become a funeral director because I was so disenchanted with the media. So I worked in this funeral thing, and that's enriched me. That's given me so much. Like 1 year in that industry was like 10 years in normal world.
Wow.
And then I'm like, man, I went there because I wanted to help people. But you know what? When someone's lost someone they love, all they want is their loved one back. And you can't at best, a funeral director can just make a funeral go well and be there for that period of time. And you
Yeah.
feel very empty because you can't bring back their loved one. So my old boss is calling me going, "Are you sick of this funeral thing yet? Do you want to come back? Do you want to come back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all right." So I came back. And anyway, I'm mentoring people on the side and doing my spiritual work on the side through all of this stuff, through all of this
Right.
journey. It's like
Right.
not separating, because that's where we fall into danger. As soon as you start saying, well, that's the spiritual part of me, I'll put that there. And well, that's the work part of me. No, that's
Mhm.
failure. That's setting yourself up for failure. Just be your
Yeah.
authentic self. Just show up
Mhm.
as you are. That's the power. So anyway, I decided that I couldn't do this anymore. So on Christmas Eve of Christmas Eve of 2016, I'm putting all my stuff off my desk in these big brown box like you see in the movies. I'm leaving. I'm walking out of my office Christmas Eve with no business plan, no idea, no nothing other than the drive and determination within me that I have to do something that actually matters. And so anyway, I knew marketing and I wrote a book on marketing, which became an Amazon bestseller. And
I was going to ask you about your best-selling book. So it was about marketing and the other
yeah,
one,
that
you
one. Yeah.
two.
And then, so within 6 weeks of leaving that job, I was at capacity because all these people heard I left, contacted me and said, come and do our stuff for us. And then I'm like, oh, but this isn't what I want to do. So I
Mm.
spoke to the publicist who helped me do that book, the marketing book. And I sent her a manuscript. I said, this is what I'm really about. I'm not about marketing. Marketing is just something I know. What I'm about is this. And it was literally a manuscript that I just channeled kind of. That's how it felt. It just
Mhm.
flowed through me. And she said, oh my God, I'm going to work on this book for you for nothing. This is amazing. The world needs to hear this stuff. And that was my book called Thirsty, which was my spiritual book. And
Thirsty. And you did a
uh,
tour called Thirsty.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so people go, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so
Mhm.
lucky." And I'm like, "Well, you know what? I wrote two books in 2018, and those two books, I I was up at 4 a.m. almost every morning until 8 a.m. working for a year. Like, it was
Yeah.
actually started in 2017. I was doing that so I could get these books out. And then I was building a business which was brand new. And then I was trying to jump ahead and create my spiritual work and give as much as I could without being to my detriment. So, you know what? Yeah, I was lucky, but
You worked hard. Yeah. You
yeah.
just brought up a point that's very interesting. Helping others that is not to your detriment. How do you find that balance? Because we some people can get lost in helping others too. That is an escape. So well, if you took the shamanic journey and you were trained by mentors, I mean that's part of the journey too. How to self-care and then not deplete your energies and help others. Because I find that that calling that you have, that you had to help others. I mean, this is it, isn't it? It's this calling to help others.
Um, it's self-respect, Michelle. And I think so you can't give from is my cup. You can't give from a cup that's empty. And you can't give from
Yeah,
a cup that's half full. So
yeah.
you have to honor and respect the sovereignty within you. And that doesn't mean you're better than anyone. So the ninth principle of shamanism reminds us that we're here to be of service. Um,
Mhm.
the the eighth principle reminds us that all things are sacred. So you kind of have to have that understanding that well, you matter too. And if you're not in a position to give from a place of abundance, well, then what can you give? How effective can you be? So you
Yeah.
have to look after yourself. You really, really do.
And how do you do that? How do you personally do that?
Um, it took me a long time to figure this out, but what I do is I have a daily ritual which involves meditation. It involves being grateful, sipping from my copper chalice, my which was I manifest this. I manifested most things in my world. Actually, no, that we all manifest everything
Yeah.
in our worlds, right?
Yep.
I intentionally manifest these things. And so just being grounded, Michelle, and not losing sight of the perspective. It's knowing that if you get really close, you'll see the ocean erode the shore away, because that's nature.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing that if you get that far back, it all looks really beautiful. So
Mm-hmm.
it's about maintaining the perspective and being grounded in your truth, not somebody else's truth. That's the key. It's knowing who you are at a soul level, because that's who you actually are. You're a soul, an eternal being, can't come here to incarnate in this human experience and to manifest great things. Like, we didn't come here to live a life of lack. We didn't come here to struggle. That's the system, the programming that's been thrust upon us. That's the thing we've been born into. You go to I remember you go to, say, the island of Bali, and you go up into the highlands, and you know what? They're the happiest people I've ever met, because they don't have TVs. They don't need anything. Everything they have is what they have, and they're grateful. And life's just beautiful. They grow their own food.
Mm-hmm.
There's community. So, we're
Yeah.
thrust into this world that tells us that we need all these things, and all this stuff. Happiness is external to us, but fulfillment, peace, contentment are the greatest things you can ever acquire on this journey. And when you come from that place, it's really easy to be grounded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a something I heard, I don't know who said it, but it was about, like, the thing about manifesting and the beauty about manifesting is that you can manifest everything you've ever wanted, get the house, whatever, the relationship, the money, da da da. And then once you get everything, you realize, okay, that's not it. So that's the beauty of it, that some people need to take that journey. I never did, but like, it is part of some people's journey to they are master manifestors, but then only once they have everything, they realize, oh, I still don't have anything.
Mm.
And so that is, the shift from the external to the internal. The 9 principles of shamanism, is that worldly knowledge, or is this something you
Yeah.
came up with?
No, there's 9 principles, which are pretty well. Some people say there's 5, some people say there's 7, some people say there's 12. This is like I said in the
Okay.
intro.
Yeah.
It's like, who did?
Yeah.
It's like the lady, you remember we were talking a couple of weeks back, and you said, the neighbor who said the weather was
Oh yeah.
terrible, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the day
Yeah.
was actually beautiful. It's like, well, man, it's all perspective. It's like, well,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
9 principles I operate from are the principles that were taught to me by my master shaman, which
Yeah.
were taught to him by his master shaman. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
that's what I know. That's what I ground myself in. But
Yeah.
this manifestation thing at the moment is really topical, and we've there's all these there's so many experts on manifestation, and there's so many philosophies and ideas around what that really is. But the
Mm-hmm.
shamanic view on manifesting is, open your eyes, look around, that's what you manifest.
Mm-hmm.
So everything in your reality, well, you can't blame anybody else. You have to take responsibility for where you are, because you have the
Yeah.
third principle reminds us that energy flows where attention goes.
Yeah.
So you have to say, well, I've nurtured this reality around me by focusing my energy into it.
I've
And
heard
that's
that saying for many years. Energy flows where attention goes, but I didn't realize it was from a shamanic principle. And it's so
yeah,
true.
and
So
it
true.
it so is. And the one thing about the shamanic path, which a lot of people don't appreciate, is that you are asked to take responsibility.
Yeah.
There's no deflection, there's no blame, there's no God's testing me, there's none of that. It's like, no, this is
Yeah.
your path, you're responsible, and you better sort it out, because no one else will or can.
Yeah.
And that's people don't like that stuff. And, I sugarcoat it as best I can. And I'm as gentle as I can be with the
Yeah.
people I work with. And they get it. We navigate through that stuff and they come out the other side powerfully.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think that
and
what people don't understand is that what you're saying and what we're saying by talking about personal responsibility is that you're that powerful.
correct.
So
Correct.
it's about empowering others. And even when people contact me for energy readings and energy sessions and soul guide, whatever, even bioenergy healing that I do, I have them sign a form saying that they are still responsible for their own physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. That because and I've had people contact me and then I never hear from them again once I mention this thing that I want them to sign. And I thought that's why I do it, because those
Hmm.
who don't want to take responsibility then will not be a good match for my
Yeah.
sessions. And I
That's really important, Michelle. And that is, to all the other people that are watching out there who are working with people one on one, you have a responsibility to protecting yourself from people who may not necessarily be the best fit for you.
yeah,
And that's wisdom, Michelle. And what I do is I interview everybody that potentially wants to work with me.
right,
And within 15 minutes, I know, within 5 minutes, I usually know
yeah,
where they're at. And because I don't want to waste their time or money, and I certainly don't want to waste my time.
yeah,
And so if I don't feel that they're going to be ready for the commitment, then I say, look, you know what? I gently explain that to them and say, come back to me in 6 months, or maybe I'm not your guy. Maybe you need someone who'll tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear.
that's really, really good. Because I was also going to ask you what a session looks like. What what do people come to you for? And I know that yeah, on you were talking about making people goals and dreams, right? You help people uh manifest and create their goals and dreams. And I think that's really beautiful. So what does it look like when someone, okay, you decide, you had the interview and you decide, yes, we're going to work together? What is that like?
Okay, we usually start with I do a journey. I go journey for that person, and I
Okay.
come back with a whole bunch of stuff. And not all the time, because this repels men from working with me, but usually people will start crying and go, "Oh my God, how did you know
Mhm.
that? That's exactly how I feel." And yes, that's so there's this emotional, it's like cracking open a coconut, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
you crack the coconut open and there's all the good stuff. So it's a lot about just gently opening them up so they can see the absolute beauty within them and find their own dream. And that to me is the biggest kick I get out of everything I do is seeing somebody immerse themselves in their own dream and then decide to 100% commit to that pathway and make that their reality. And I mean, I do that with people every day all around the world, and it's just the best thing ever. It's like,
I just got shivers.
yeah.
Got whole body shivers. Yes, that's beautiful.
Well, it is because energy flows where attention goes, and these little ripples of
Yeah.
it's like in your last video. I'm like I said to you before, I'm watching your last video, and I'm like, oh my God, this is Michelle's best video ever. This is so. This is the best video she's ever done. And then you reference our conversation and
Yeah.
the what
The
that did,
interview.
and it's like that's the power of being in your dream. You go and you say one word to somebody that is probably insignificant to you, but when you're in a state of flow and your
Mhm.
heart and your attention is for that person or the people around you to enter into their dream and take action, Michelle.
Yeah. Yeah. For those who didn't see the video, I will link it. But yeah, in my video, I talk about how he said, and Michelle, how to put things into action. And then I had been just sitting on this big idea, not knowing I was sitting on it. I didn't know. I was actually sitting on it. It was just an idea I've had for a year, 2 years. It just keeps coming back, but it wasn't solidified. It was not what it is now, then, until un, until I had this idea, inspiration come just a few days before we talked. And when you said, you know how to put it in action, I'm like, I do. And I'm not doing that. I got to do
So
that.
that's kind of what I do, Michelle. It's like it's seeing through that energetic lens. Energetically, everything's energy. So the energy I feel, and like, you know what, energies, my energy, your energies, going through the computers, through the
Yeah.
satellites, through the cables, everything's energy. It all works.
Mm-hmm.
So then what I'll do, the biggest thing is, once we establish that there's a dream, and everybody has a dream, right? Most
Yeah.
people just can't connect to it because of the
Yeah.
programming. That's when we tackle the programming.
Oh.
That's when we delve in and go, well, why do you believe what you believe? And
Right.
why don't you think you can do that? And so then we attack, and we attack the programming,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it rises up to shut you down. The programming does that.
Mm-hmm.
So we address that. And I address that through all the various pathways that I've come through, my Australian Aboriginal elder, and the things he taught me, through my Cherokee shaman master and the things he taught me, through the theological world that I came, and everything else, the clairvoyance that mentored me when I was 12. It's all these things come into this one place, and that's where I come from. And then I usually take people through the 9 principles of shamanism so they can ground themselves in some kind of knowing, and that helps. It's a structure for them, or a framework is a better word.
Mm-hmm.
It's a framework for them to operate within and to ground themselves in. And then we start plotting the course to their dream. And this is why people stay with me
Yeah.
a long time in their
Yeah.
working. And some people fall off because it gets too hard. And I had that
Mm-hmm.
only last week. Somebody just said, I can't do this. It's just too hard. And I'm like, it's all right. You just need to go away and find yourself and decide what you want for your life. There's
Yeah.
no there's no
Yeah.
angst there. It's where you're at. So you need to take
Yeah.
responsibility.
But you've actually clarified two things that's really wonderful. So you said that you go into the dream, you do travel. So you do this in a meditation, or in a just kind of feel your way through, or because I mean I do soul guidance sessions, and I read the energies, and I can tell exactly where the person is at and kind of how to guide them. But the thing that just piqued my interest right now too is that I was wondering, there was the word in your bio. I think it was, I don't know if you use the word
It's probably a typo, Michelle.
fast track. I don't know if you use the word fast track. Did you use the word fast track? I
I
maybe.
probably do, because I
Yes,
think
you did. Fast tracking them to achieve their goals and dreams. You did.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
makes sense to me, because usually in the spiritual journey, the deprogramming takes quite a while. It's a longer journey. And I can see that being fast tracked if you're attacking the programming.
You have to, Michelle. It's the enemy. So,
Yeah.
if an enemy establishes itself in your territory, you have two options. You submit and surrender, or you go on the offensive and you attack that thing.
Yeah.
And I'm all about freedom. I am a freedom lover, and I want to see people empowered in their own freedom. And so I go on the offensive with that person, and I attack the programming, and I let them see the program. I don't tell them what the
Mm.
programming is. I let them see it. And then together we
Yeah.
develop strategies to get rid of that programming. And if just to the people out there, if you're aware of some of the programming and you're dealing with it and you're wondering why it keeps showing up, you have to replace that programming with something really positive and really empowering. And that's what people, they see the program and they go, oh, that's the problem, but it stays there and it's not removed and replaced. So that's a very
Mhm.
important and very powerful thing to do in your life, whoever
Yeah.
you are, wherever.
I also like to circle back to the word attack. So it I'm sure it's not an aggressive thing. You're in a loving, gentle state of being.
Yeah, and I never use that language, Michelle. So like even war, you know, you hear these spiritual warriors and spiritual
Oh
war, and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, go away. Yeah, I don't want to know.
yeah.
And so, and when I said attack, then I've gone, where did that come from?
Well, it grabs your attention. It just it makes it really important. It's an important thing. We have to be deprogrammed. We have to realize we are all programmed, and but not all of us are put on this planet to be deprogrammed. Some are, you know, it's not everyone has their own journey, and every journey is
Yes.
as important as every other one. There's no journey that's more important than the others because it's all source
Mm,
expression. So it's all in its own way beautiful.
yeah. And you know, when someone awakens, they know that they have to do something.
Yeah.
And when somebody awakens, they're what's your term? Deer in the headlights?
Yeah.
We say kangaroo in the headlights here. So um
Good
we
day,
do
mate.
that. Yeah. No, I've never heard an Australian talk like that. That's a
I know, it's not funny. What was it? Shrimp on the barbie. Like, so nobody
uh,
talks like
well,
that.
it's like Canadians. What is it? Moose in the hoose?
Boat, oat in a boat, oat in a
That's
boat.
it.
Like, I don't talk like that. That's
No,
crazy.
you don't.
I mean, I wanted to make sure that people understand that it's just a metaphor. It's just a way of speaking. But you're as a human being are very gentle and loving
I
and
try.
your guy. Yeah, but I mean, you can tell you're not. You can tell you have a certain very beautiful energy that comes
Well,
across.
thank you.
So you would have that in your sessions as well, I'm sure. So
Yeah, I do, and I do ground myself in that. I know how nasty this world can be, and
yeah.
people don't. I mean, here's the thing, right, Michelle? When I was learning from my shaman master, he'd slap me, and he'd say, and you know, he'd
Wow.
say to me, he'd say,
Oh
"Don't
yeah.
think like a white boy,"
Oh
and,
wow.
and so you know, it's like
Yep.
took a to sit through that and go, man, he just
Hmm.
slapped me.
He
Wow.
was actually bringing to your attention your programming big
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, I don't do that. I
No.
don't slap. But you know, people go, "Oh, you're a shaman." Oh, okay, well, that's interesting because they don't get it, and it's okay, and I
Yeah.
understand that.
Hmm.
And there's all the preconceived ideas around what that is. But ultimately, what I
Yeah.
am is I'm somebody who is aware of my calling, and that calling is to help other people
Hmm.
on their journey. And it's like, Michelle, you have so much shamanic energy within you, and projects through in what you say and what you do, and your energy work, your all that stuff is very shamanic, and it's just a label, okay? Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest,
Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah.
label.
Yeah.
Um, you know, if you want to be called a light worker, if you want to be called a whatever,
Yeah.
like if that makes you happy and that helps you define what it is, and it's not harming anyone and it's elevating you as a soul, well, then embrace that and ground yourself in that and be
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
No one needs to be a copycat me. I mean, please don't. And I
Well,
don't copycat
no.
anyone.
In fact, the reason that I really wanted to talk to you about shamanism is because you do have this very grounded energy, and you are a quote unquote normal human being. Like you walk, this path on the earth like everybody else. Um, but you have this unique way of expressing shamanism that I knew you would be able to explain it to me and to others in a way that just brings it right back down to earth. And I really love that. And thank you for that, because this has been incredibly inspiring. And just, I learned so much. Thank you.
Well,
And
thank you, Michelle.
one thing before we go, I have to ask you. So if if you have a message,
If I have a message,
Yeah.
Well, I have many messages, Michelle. Well, my message to the people watching this today, and I know the people in your community because I'm one of them. I love your community. I see the people in your community, and I love the energy in your community, and they're beautiful souls. And you know what? They're all on their unique journey. And I want to encourage the people in your community to, back yourself. Know the dream within your heart. Don't let the external voices interfere with what's incredibly important, because you've come here to experience beautiful things, amazing things, to live an abundant life. And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about good things, good experiences. So ground yourself in your truth, the thing that you know that's within you. Do that. Come from a place of love, because love is the ultimate power. The fifth principle of shamanism, love is the ultimate power. And remember that you might be the only one that believes in your dream. So you need to take responsibility for it unfolding. And you need to back yourself and believe that you're not alone in this journey. There's Michèle, there's myself, there's the whole community that's here to support you, that will rise up and support you. You are not alone. This is a beautiful universe we're living in, and full stop.
Beautiful. Yeah, I do think one of the most beautiful things you can do is to be there to support someone else making their dream come true. Really is beautiful. Well, thank you so much. This has been really fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Michèle. And like I say, shamanism is emerging and is maturing. Like everything else, there's energetic shift on the earth. So everything has to grow up, everything has to change, because the energies that used to support what was are no longer here. So the new energies, we have to be responsive to that, and we have to be aware of that. And even into the very intricate details of our everyday lives, the new energies are shifting everything. So be aware of those things, ground yourself in those things.
Well, we'll have to do a part 2.
Let's do that.
Okay.
You'll have to do a part 2 on my channel.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Michèle.